Hamilton's Austrian Grand Prix did not expose a tire problem. It exposed why the tires were being destroyed. And that difference changes everything. Because Ferrari's tires were not just fading, they may have been paying the price for a deeper weakness inside the car. A chain reaction starting with power, energy deployment, straight line vulnerability, heat, and pressure that forced Hamilton into survival mode long before the checkered flag. No smoke, no engine failure, no dramatic retirement. Just telemetry pointing to the nightmare Ferrari cannot ignore. A car that looks fast enough to fight at the start, then burns through its tires when the race becomes serious. And if Hamilton's tires really degraded 3 times faster, the question is not, why did the rubber fail? The question is, what inside the Ferrari was killing it? Because a driver can manage tires. A team can change strategy. But if the car itself is forcing the tires to overwork, then Austria was not just a bad race. It was a warning that Hamilton's championship dream may be losing grip from the inside out. Subscribe to the channel. At first, Ferrari could explain Austria in the simplest way possible. The tires went away. That phrase is familiar in Formula One. Teams use it all the time. Fans understand it immediately. The car had grip, then it did not. Hamilton could fight, then he could not. A podium looked possible, then it slipped out of reach. But simple explanations can be dangerous when they arrive too quickly. Because in Austria, the tires were not the whole story. They were the visible damage. The real question was what caused that damage in the first place. That is where Hamilton's telemetry became so important. Telemetry is the car telling the truth in numbers. It does not care about excuses. It does not care about emotion. It shows where the throttle was open, where the car gained speed, where it lost speed, where the energy was used, where the tires started to suffer, where the lap time began to fall away. And if Ferrari looked at Hamilton's Austrian data and saw the tires degrading far faster than expected, the next question could not be, how did Hamilton fail to save them? The real question had to be, why was the car forcing him to spend them so quickly? That is the difference between blaming the driver and understanding the machine. Hamilton is not a rookie guessing his way through tire management. He has built part of his reputation on controlling races, stretching stints, protecting rubber, and still finding speed when the pressure is highest. So when a Hamilton-driven Ferrari begins to lose its tires badly, Ferrari has to look beyond the surface. Because maybe the tires were not being abused by the driver. Maybe they were being overloaded by the car. And that changes everything. A tire can only do so much. It has to help the car brake. It has to help the car turn. It has to put the power down when the driver accelerates. It has to survive heat, sliding, pressure, and constant punishment. In a perfect race car, that workload is balanced. The car gives the tire support. The aerodynamics push the car into the road. The power arrives smoothly. The energy deploys when it should. The balance gives the driver confidence. But when one part of that system is weak, the tires become the emergency workers. They have to cover the gap. And in Austria, Ferrari's tires may have been covering too much. That is the key. Because the source material points to Ferrari's wider performance weakness, especially around power unit output, energy deployment, and straight line performance. It also explains that Hamilton did not suffer an engine retirement, and that Austria was a performance failure, not a dramatic mechanical collapse. The Ferrari faded in the second half of the race, on a circuit where straight line speed and energy deployment mattered enormously. That detail matters because tire degradation can begin long before the corner where everyone notices the slide. It can begin on the straight. It can begin when the car lacks enough speed to defend comfortably. It can begin when Hamilton has to brake later than ideal, turn harder than ideal, or accelerate more aggressively than ideal just to stay in the fight. Every time he does that, the tires pay. A little more heat, a little more slip, a little more stress. And once the tires cross their limit, they do not politely recover because the driver asks nicely. They fall away. Then the car slides more. Then the slide creates more heat. Then the heat creates even more degradation. That is the loop Ferrari had to fear. The tire problem feeds itself. But the first push may have come from somewhere else. Imagine trying to carry a heavy shopping bag with one hand while the other hand is injured. For a few minutes, you can manage. You adjust. You hold the bag differently. You keep walking. But because one side is not helping properly, the other side gets tired much faster. Eventually, people watching you only see the tired arm. They do not see the original imbalance. That is what may have happened with Hamilton's Ferrari. The tires were the tired arm. The deeper imbalance was somewhere in the car. And Austria was the track that made it visible. The Red Bull ring is short, but it is not gentle. It keeps asking the same questions. Can the car accelerate cleanly? Can it recover and deploy energy at the right moments? Can it defend into the braking zones? Can it keep the tires alive while doing all of that again and again? If the answer is slightly wrong, the driver feels it every lap. And if the driver has to compensate every lap, the tires suffer every lap. That is why the phrase 3 times faster is so powerful, even when the exact figure must be treated carefully. The source material does not confirm that exact number as a verified statistic, but the core idea points toward the real danger. Hamilton's tires appeared to fall away as part of a larger Ferrari fade, and the reason may have been connected to the car's deeper performance limits. That is more important than the headline number, because Ferrari does not only need to ask how fast the tires degraded. Ferrari needs to ask why the degradation was triggered. Was the rear axle overheating because Hamilton had to fight too hard out of traction zones? Was the front end sliding because the setup had been compromised for straight-line speed? Was the car carrying too much drag, forcing Hamilton to defend in ways that hurt the tires? Was the hybrid system failing to give enough help at the end of straights, leaving him vulnerable and forcing more aggressive driving into corners? Was the power unit weakness making the whole race more expensive for the rubber? Those questions are not separate. They connect. And that connection is the frightening part. Because a simple tire issue can be managed. You change the setup. You adjust the stint length. You protect the rubber earlier. You choose a different strategy. But if the tires are degrading because the car is compensating for a power or energy weakness, then the tires are only the final symptom. The real illness is deeper. And deep problems do not disappear because the driver is careful. They follow the car from race to race. Maybe they hide on one circuit. Maybe they look smaller when conditions are cooler. Maybe they disappear for a few laps when the tires are fresh. But then the race gets serious. Fuel burns off. The pace increases. Rivals attack. The energy demand rises. The tires get older. And the weakness returns. That is why Austria hurt Ferrari so badly. It did not just produce a disappointing result. It may have shown the mechanism behind the disappointment. Hamilton could not simply nurse the tires and fight at the same time. The car appeared to make him choose. Protect the tires and lose pressure on the cars ahead. Attack and hurt the rubber. Defend and spend energy. Save energy and become vulnerable. That is not control. That is compromise. And championship teams cannot live forever inside compromise. For Hamilton, this is especially brutal because his greatest racecraft depends on having options. He is at his best when he can shape the race. When he can preserve tires without falling away. When he can wait calmly, then attack suddenly. When he can sense the moment a rival is weak and apply pressure lap after lap. But if a Ferrari is burning its tires because the whole car is working too hard, those options shrink. The race becomes narrower. The strategy becomes defensive. The radio messages become more cautious. And the driver stops thinking about how to win. He starts thinking about how much damage can be limited. That is the emotional shift Austria exposed. Hamilton did not look like a driver in full control of a hunt. He looked like a driver trying to keep the hunt alive while the car underneath him was taking more and more away. And that is why Ferrari could not treat the telemetry as just another data set. It was a warning, not just about tires, about the chain reaction inside the car. Power weakness creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates defensive driving. Defensive driving creates tire stress. Tire stress creates degradation. Degradation creates pace loss. Pace loss creates more pressure. And more pressure starts the cycle again. That is the loop Hamilton was fighting. Not one corner. Not one stint. A loop. And if Ferrari does not break that loop, it will come back. Maybe not with the same headline. Maybe not with the same number. Maybe not on the same type of tire. But it will return whenever the circuit asks the Ferrari to deliver power, energy, and tire control at the same time. That is the nightmare. Because title-winning cars do not just have speed. They have balance under stress. They can attack without destroying themselves. They can defend without burning through their own weapons. They can protect tires while still staying dangerous. Austria suggested Ferrari may not have that balance yet. And when Hamilton's telemetry exposed the degradation pattern, it forced the team into the question that matters most. Are Ferrari's tires the problem, or are they the evidence? The next layer is where the tire story becomes even more dangerous for Ferrari. Because once you understand that Hamilton's tires may have been the evidence, not the original problem, the whole Austrian Grand Prix starts to look different. Suddenly, the question is not only why did the tires degrade, The question becomes, why were the tires being asked to do so much work? And that is where Ferrari's deeper weakness comes into focus. A Formula One tire is not just a piece of rubber. It is the part of the car that pays for every compromise. If the car lacks balance, the tires pay. If the car slides, the tires pay. If the driver has to defend too hard, the tires pay. If the power arrives too aggressively, the tires pay. If the car lacks straight line strength and has to fight harder through corners to recover time, the tires pay. And by the time the audience notices the Ferrari fading, the tires may have already been paying that price for lap after lap. That is why telemetry matters so much. Telemetry does not simply say the tires were worn. It can show how they were worn. It can show whether the rear tires were overheating because Hamilton had to put too much force through them on corner exit. It can show whether the front tires were sliding because the car would not rotate cleanly into corners. It can show whether Hamilton was forced into defensive lines that overheated the rubber. It can show whether the car's energy delivery changed the way he had to attack and defend. And if Ferrari saw that chain in the data, then Austria was not just a race to review. It was a warning to act. Because tire degradation is not always a tire problem. Sometimes tire degradation is the car confessing. And Ferrari's car may have been confessing something it had been hiding behind short bursts of speed. This is the cruel thing about a flawed fast car. It can look good before it looks weak. Fresh tires can hide problems. Low pressure from rivals can hide problems. A few clean laps can hide problems. But when the race becomes harder, when the tires age, when the fuel burns off, when the rivals start attacking, the truth arrives. And Austria forced that truth into the open. Hamilton's Ferrari seemed to move from attack to survival. That matters because survival driving is expensive. Every time Hamilton had to protect position, the tires took stress. Every time he had to brake later to cover a rival, the fronts took heat.